Does your faith or convictions ever make you feel different? In Romans 12, verse 2, Paul shares, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." In today's episode of Campus Bread, I sit down with Pepperdine Senior Claire Everbach for a little real talk on finding faith in college and the challenges of social culture. Let's dive in. Hey, beautiful. Welcome to Campus Bread. I'm your host, Brianna Ruelas, and this podcast is dedicated to motivating and encouraging college women towards faith and friendship. Your college years are full of highs and lows, but we're building a community here with the hope that you'll feel a little less alone and a lot more connected. This is a place where you can be anchored in truth and reminded of how exquisite and loved you truly are. Hello, beautiful Claire Everbach. I am so excited to have you on Campus Bread today. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you? Excited to be here.
I know I'm doing awesome. I just can't wait to sit down with you and just share kind of where you're at in your faith journey as a college student, and then also kind of tell the audience a little bit about how we met, and then just see how we can encourage other people today. So I'm going to just open up real quick and we'll dive right in. And I'm going to introduce you, kind of share your little short bio, and then I want to invite you to kind of fill in the gaps and let people know a little bit more about you. Does that sound good?
Sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, welcome to Campus Bread. I am sitting down with the beautiful Claire Everbach today. She is a senior at Pepperdine University in Malibu, California, studying communication and journalism and pursuing a career in broadcasting. Originally from Dallas, Texas, Claire chose Pepperdine for its strong Christian community and emphasis on service and leadership. Faith has always been a central guidepost in her personal and academic journey, and she is committed to using her life and work to share God's truth and love. Welcome again to the podcast, and goodness, let's just dive right in.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I'm so excited and honored to be here and excited to share a little bit of my story and my faith journey. Like you mentioned, I am originally from Dallas and currently senior at Pepperdine. I grew up in a Catholic household and went to Catholic high school, which is a large reason why I chose to attend a Christian college. I think that the faith-based principles at Pepperdine is what initially drew me to the school. I've always sort of felt a connection toward that part of the country and, most importantly, the Pepperdine campus. I really appreciate the university's mission to integrate faith and learning and to educate the whole person for a life of purpose, service, and leadership. I've always had a passion for helping others, which led me to my major of communication and journalism, whether that means telling people's stories, helping serve those who are less fortunate, or just using my platform to set an example for others, while of course also using my faith as a foundation for all of that and striving every day to be Christ-like and treat people with kindness.
Oh, I love that. Hey, it's really cool because you and I met at a alumni event, a Pepperdine alumni event. For those of you tuning in, I'm a Pepperdine alumni as well, which is how I met Claire. And it was a wonderful event. It was right before an amazing volleyball game. Like the women's volleyball game, our team
Yes.
was playing SMU here in Dallas. And it was right before Thanksgiving. So you were here on holiday break, and you were also a Theta, which is my sorority. So the minute I found out you were a Theta, I was like, oh,
Sisters.
yeah. So it was just so fun to connect with you. And that was over a year ago. And I'm just so grateful that you and I have had the opportunity to connect. You have been a huge encouragement to me as I was working on my book, which Campus Bread, the podcast, is actually based off of. So you've been around and along for the ride and the journey from the beginning. And so I have a special thank you to you Claire, for that, because you've just been a huge support and encouragement to me. So thank you.
Oh, well, of course. And I mean, I would say the same. I so appreciate that you're using your God-given gifts and your platform to provide this kind of resource for college women and to just guide young girls through their college journey, which, like you touch on, can be really difficult at times and is full of highs and lows. And I just appreciate the transparency, but also the hope that comes along with that. So thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I know you mentioned that you went to a Catholic high school,
I
but can
did.
you give me like a glimpse of how your faith has evolved over the years? Maybe from what we know, like, okay, we're a good Catholic girl, we go to church on Sundays, but then evolving into sort of a faith of your own, right? A personal
Yeah.
relationship, so to speak.
It's an interesting story. So I did attend a Catholic high school, but I actually only attended that school for 2.5 years. Before that, I attended a different school, a co ed school that I had gone to for 10 years. And I decided to transfer high schools in the middle of my sophomore year. I was going through a very difficult time my freshman and sophomore year of high school. I had a big falling out with my friend group. I was struggling with anxiety and depression and feeling really distant from God. And I started to feel distant from myself and that I was just completely out of place. It felt like it wasn't really going to get better. And I dreaded going to school each day. There would be days where I didn't even want to get out of the car or get out of bed. So, with the help of my family, I decided to take a leap of faith, if you will, and transfer schools. And my school was Christian before this, but faith wasn't really something that they prioritized in the classroom. And that's kind of something different that this new Catholic all girl high school did prioritize. And I'd like to say that that's sort of when my relationship with God really shifted. I think despite how scary and daunting it was, and the fact that I didn't know anyone at this new school, it was part of God's plan looking back. And I'm so glad that even my 15-year-old self knew to trust him and trust that this was an opportunity for me to finally feel like I belonged. Looking back, it really is the best decision I made because it introduced me to this new environment where I just met so many Christ-like and kind people and friends that I am still in contact with today and are my best friends now. And it was definitely a better fit for me, which I didn't know at the time. But looking back, I firmly believe that God placed me exactly where I was meant to be. And I really think that that sort of marked my independent journey with faith. Before that, I kind of relied on my family and my friends to hold me accountable and pray and go to church and maintain a relationship with Him. But I think that me transferring schools and sort of making that first big decision is what started the relationship with God that I still maintain today and that has carried me through college.
That's awesome. I absolutely love that. And when you got to college, you know, you chose a Christian university. I know you and I have talked about my journey, which was full of highs and lows. But what about you? What types of challenges did you encounter when you got to school, when you got to college?
Well, like the leap of faith I took in transferring high schools, I think coming to Pepperdine was also a big risk. I didn't know anyone in California or at Pepperdine. It was far away from Texas, far away from my family. And although Pepperdine is a very comforting and nurturing campus, and I've grown to absolutely adore the leadership in the community, I had a really hard freshman year. I struggled to adapt to the California culture. I was sad to be away from home. I didn't really feel like I was making genuine friendship connections. And there was a point where I didn't think it was right for me. But I think looking back, the first year of college is all about adjustment. And I think that no matter where you go, whether it's your hometown college or a college that's across the country, there is going to be adjustment and there are going to be challenges. And I wish that I knew a little bit more about what those challenges would be before going to college, but there's no way to really know. But I think that I wish I would have told my freshman self to just give it time because it really wasn't until the end of my sophomore year, so almost after completing 2 full years at Pepperdine, where I really found my place. And I think my faith was a big reason why I did choose to stay. I think I really had to trust God that I was at Pepperdine for a reason and something was keeping me pulled toward Malibu and toward Pepperdine, but it's not always easy. And I really have just made it my priority to help freshman girls who maybe felt the same way that I did at Pepperdine and just guide them along their path and their journey, especially girls in my sorority, and just for them to know that it takes time and that's okay. Not everybody is on the same timeline. And even if it seems like your classmates are immediately making their best friends and that they just completely fall in love with the college campus, that's not always true. That's not always genuine. And it's different for every person. So for some people, it takes longer to get involved and meet kindred spirits and really find their groove. And that's okay.
Absolutely. And I know you and I have talked about another thing that you sort of wish you knew was that it's okay if you change your major because you
Totally.
came into Pepperdine with a totally different major and it took you time to really settle into your groove. Tell me a little bit about that sort of journey to figuring that out. Cause I know
Yeah.
a lot of people are challenged by that sometimes. They feel so much pressure to like choose their major when they're 10 years old.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember the question that you just get constantly your freshman year. Oh, where are you from? What's your major? And I never had anything to say because I came into Pepperdine undecided in my major. And I tried out psychology. I thought that since I was passionate about mental health and uplifting others, that it might be the path for me. But after one semester, I reassessed. And my mom has always told me that she thinks I would be great in broadcast journalism, which honestly is what ignited my initial love for it. So I thought, maybe I'll switch my major to communication, have a minor in journalism, try it out, just see if this is something I want to do. And I honestly fell in love with it. I joined News Waves, which were the waves at Pepperdine. So News Waves is our live broadcast news show weekly that is completely student run with a faculty advisor. And it honestly is just something that, like I said, I fell in love with. I, 3 years later now, have served in almost every position, both in front of and behind the camera. And I had no experience in or exposure really to the world of journalism before that, but it took a while for me to realize that and realize that I really love reporting and sharing people's stories and shedding light on issues that people might otherwise not know about, especially finding out what's relevant to certain communities. For me, that's been the Malibu and Calabasas area for the last 3 years. And I've found out things that I never would have known. And it's been an honor to share that with the Pepperdine community. And it's made me really passionate about the world of news and while also implementing my personal faith into the work I do.
That's so great because when I was at Pepperdine, boy, I don't really think we had something to that degree. I know that they had a comms, whole section. They were actually renovating that whole comm art section up there. So that's really great work that you're doing. And I've actually checked out your Instagram because you have a special Instagram
I
for
do.
for all of that footage.
Yeah.
So at the end of this episode, we'll be sure to share that and let people know where they can check you out there too, if that's cool with you.
I would be
Um,
honored. Thank you.
yeah. And okay, so when you've got like those challenges of picking your major and those challenges of like, oh my goodness, I don't even know if I'm going to come back for my second year of Pepperdine. There's other
Mhm.
challenges that we've talked about, like social culture. And, we're navigating all of that. That was something that really kind of struck a chord for you too. So, is that something you want to talk about today?
Totally, yes.
Yay.
I would be glad to talk about that. I think that we live in a world where there is so much pressure, especially on the younger generation, I would say high school and college. And like I mentioned earlier, that's a large reason why I chose to come to Pepperdine because I feel that the principals at the school and what they prioritize aligns with my moral compass. And I've always been someone to stay true to my convictions and stay strong in my faith. But let's be honest, college is really hard. And I think that there are so many factors and temptations and pressures and expectations that when you are your freshman vulnerable self, you can fall into. And I definitely fell into some of those temptations and fell into certain peer pressures, both in high school and college. But I, like I said, really just want to help young women who may be struggling with that or are scared of that, who are going into college, that it's okay to not conform. It's okay to be different and to make different choices than your peers or maybe even your best friends. So, just to give them permission to stay true to themselves, to follow their heart, and it's okay to be different.
Absolutely. I always say like it's like okay to live counterculturally,
Yes,
and right now,
absolutely.
especially with social media and when we talk about social culture, let's get specific. There's just the college culture, there's so many different little avenues. I think that there's when we talk about social culture, I think there's a lot of different specific little levels of it from social media to um, what we how we dress to the sororities that we're in to the parties that we do or don't go to. Could you give me a little bit more sort of specifics in that realm too?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I think that kind of an overarching piece of advice that I would tell myself is just when you think you can't grow anymore, you do. And I had so much growth my freshman year in the decisions I made and the people I chose to surround myself with and the social events I chose to go to. And, your freshman year, all you're really trying to do is get acclimated. So you feel a certain pressure to go to every party and drink if other people are drinking and surround yourself with a certain group of people or make sure you're hanging out with this fraternity. And it's okay to, make those choices and feel like you need to try and cram everything into your schedule freshman year and get as much exposure as possible. But I think that something I've realized over the last 2 years is that it doesn't really matter. And if you want to spend your time prioritizing other things, that's okay. Of course, it's important to be social and get to know people, but if you aren't vibing with a certain group of people, that's okay. If you realize that your friends who were in your suite freshman year aren't really aligning with your moral compass and making you feel good about yourself, then that's okay too. Or it might be that your sorority that you rushed into your freshman year isn't the right fit either. And that's okay. I just think you learn so much about yourself. I would say, especially for me during my sophomore and junior year. And I like to think of freshman year as almost like a trial run. I think looking back, that's a mindset I wish I would have adopted. I think I went into college expecting it to be super fun and I would meet my best friends and it would just be this perfect situation, living in a dorm, getting to go to parties. And we live in Malibu, we can go to the beach every day, which it can be that, but it's also not all that. And that's okay too. It's not going to be sunshine and butterflies all the time. And your freshman year, especially, I don't think is going to be perfect. But you just have to trust yourself and trust in the Lord that He has you on a perfect path. And that path, that timeline might not look identical to the people around you. And that's also okay. It took me 2 years to find my place at Pepperdine. And I think the person I am now is noticeably different than the person I was freshman year.
As you should be, right? It's like
Exactly.
if we don't open ourselves to growth and evolution, I mean, that's essentially how we're created is to grow and evolve. And
Absolutely.
if you were the same freshman year as you were senior year, or even, my daughter just came home from college for her first break. She's a freshman this year. And she's like, I've changed. I feel different. Like, even though I'm home and I'm the same girl, I still feel different. And I'm like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, she doesn't seem different or look different or anything like that, but she feels it. And it's also her perspective on just being at home. So I think that
Yeah.
that's a beautiful part of college is being able to explore and figure out what works for you and who you want to show up, like how you want to show up in the world, how you want to show up with friends, like you said, in sorority and community, as a leader, as a in your faith too, right? I just think that's so awesome. And I know that one thing that you had said earlier in our conversation was, that advice to stay true to your own convictions. I know that that's important to you as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm fortunate I, have parents who have raised me to believe that and have always instilled that in me to stay true to myself, but it's also hard. It's, easier said than done, and it definitely takes a while to reach that perspective. I don't think when I entered my freshman year that that was necessarily at the forefront of my mind. I was probably more worried about fitting in and finding friends and making good grades and immersing myself into the community as much as possible and getting involved. But really, you can do all of that and make choices that align with your moral compass and that align with how the kind of person that you want to be and the impact that you want to have on people. So I would just encourage all college students, specifically young girls who may be entering college next year or getting ready to go into their second semester, to just follow your heart and make decisions that feel right for you and not for other people. Because at the end of the day, this is the only time in your life, in college is really the only time in your life that you're going to be making decisions for yourself without having to consider other people. It's going to be one of the only journeys in your life where you can put yourself first and you're not putting someone else's needs before your own. And I think that that's really special. I think it's really just 4 years for you and your relationship with God to flourish while you're also on a personal journey, an academic journey, and you're going to be making decisions for yourself that are going to set you up for the rest of your life. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing. And it's something that I didn't really realize until last year. But I think you can do all of that by making decisions through your heart instead of your mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Before we hopped on this discussion, I was looking through some Bible verses because I knew that you and I had recently discussed, talking about the challenges of social culture and things like that. And one,
Yes.
the Bible verse that kind of popped up at me was Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Yeah.
And to me, there are so many verses in the Bible that talk about us being strangers in this land, right? Because as believers, we are not of this world. Like this is really not our home, right? That heaven is our home.
Yeah.
But there's also a really great pastor in Boston. His name is Adam Maybury. Adam Mabry, I think is his name. He's at Aletheia Church in Cambridge. It's actually a church that my daughter goes to, and she turned me on to his sermons. But he has a sermon series about being strangers in this world. I believe it's what it's called. No, Strangers in America, and it's a whole sermon series that talks about living counterculturally, and it goes from politics to just loving and having compassion for others. But it's a really incredible sermon series. So if you're tuning in, I feel like that's a really great resource to kind of keep in mind. The Strangers in America series with Adam Mabry, and I'll put that in the show notes too. But I definitely felt like that Romans 12:2 verse was a good anchor for this episode, so that
Yeah.
we can just remember to, like you said, stay true to our convictions, to not, be of this world ultimately, right?
Absolutely.
To not conform to social culture. So,
Exactly.
well, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. I feel like we've only been talking for 2 minutes, but I know it's been a little longer.
Time goes by
I have
fast.
I have a lot of really fun, quick lightning round questions that I'm going to ask you, and then we're
Great.
going to wrap it up, and I'll pray us out. So this is your opportunity to think very swiftly on your feet.
Yeah. Great.
So we're going to get started, okay?
Okay,
And
great.
I kind of threw out a couple of extra questions because I know that I know what you've been up to as a student at Pepperdine. Okay, so the first question is your favorite study abroad country.
Oh, favorite study abroad country. I am biased towards England because I am a member of the London IP program. So that was a very special journey for me.
Okay, sweet or salty?
Ooh, always salty, I think.
Favorite animated character?
Ooh, favorite animated character. Oh my goodness. I think I'm gonna have to go with Winnie the Pooh because it's so nostalgic for me.
Oh, I love that. Okay, do you have a favorite inspirational song?
Favorite inspirational song? Well, a song I choose to listen to when I'm feeling a little distant from the Lord and I kind of need some spiritual motivation is Gratitude by Brandon Lake.
Oh,
And
yeah.
something to motivate me more on the fun pop side and sort of re-excite my emotions is Welcome to New York by Taylor Swift.
Ooh, let's go. Have you been okay, that's another question. That's not part of the lightning round. I'll ask that later. Okay. And do you have a great resource that's inspired you? Either let's see, either a book or a podcast or favorite book of the Bible or favorite Bible verse or something like that. Something that inspires you that you can share.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my I have two favorite Bible verses, so I might have to talk about them both. But my kind of anchor Bible verse that I would say whenever I'm feeling discouraged or I have low self esteem is probably Psalm 46:5. For God is within her, she will not fall. And I think that that verse really encapsulates all of life's difficulties and the problems they can throw at you. And my other favorite verse is Jeremiah 29:11, which is a constant reminder for me that God always has a plan and that he knows things that we don't. And our timing is different from his timing.
Right. His timing is supreme. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you again for hanging out with me today. I have so much love for you, and I'm
Oh, thank
actually just really excited for you. I know that you have so much ahead of you. You are embarking on what, your last semester ish of
Last
Pepperdine?
semester. Yes, crazy. It went by so, so fast.
This is like a big time for you as you're preparing to sort of like open, spread your wings, so to speak. You know, it's like you spread
Yeah.
your wings as a freshman when you leave the nest, and then you do it again, all over again when suddenly you're like thrust into this world as like a young adult.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
congratulations on
Thank
everything.
you.
Thank you again for joining us today. And could you tell us where we can find you, perhaps on Instagram or whatnot?
Yes, of course. Well, my main Instagram account, you can find me at just claire.everbach. And I also have a TV account for my newsreels that I post. If you want to follow that as well, it's Claire on TV.
Claire on TV. One word, right?
Yes. Ooh, I want to say it's Claire dot. It is dots in between words.
Okay. Claire.on.tv.
I believe that's
Something
correct.
like that.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to have those in the show notes so that
Thank
if you're
you.
checking that out, you can just click right over there and give her a follow. And I'm going to just pray us out and just invite people to join us next time. Thanks again if you're tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, I hope you'll share it with a friend. And Claire, you are amazing. I am so proud of you, but also so excited for you. And I'm honored to be in connection with you. So thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Lord, thank you so much for just the ears that are tuning in to this podcast today. Thank you for Claire's heart that she could sit down with us and just have some real talk with me about her journey in faith, but also in college and how she stayed connected to you through this journey. Thank you, Lord, for all the young women tuning in. And we're grateful for all you do for us. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Awesome. Well, lady, until next time, I'll see you soon. Thanks again for tuning in to the Campus Spread podcast. And until next time, here we go. Ciao. Thank you for listening to the Campus Spread podcast. I hope it encouraged and motivated you to connect with other women in faith, dust off that Bible of yours, and see yourself as the King sees you, exquisite in his eyes. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow it for more goodness. And don't forget to share with a friend or even on social as we build this community together. I'd love to connect with you and keep you in the know of upcoming episodes, events, and online community hangouts. So just head over to the show notes and click the link to get in touch or DM me on Instagram at Campus Spread. Until next time, keep making room for God throughout your week. And remember, with Him, you are limitless.